People have asked the question, how could a Harvard genius like Barack Obama preside over 4 years of depression? How could an Ivy League degree produce a Ringling Brothers economy? The answer to that question is very simple. Barack Obama is not concerned with the overall health of the U.S. economy. He is only concerned with getting reelected. The title of my piece, Stuck in Neutral, the Obama Economy. Let me start off by saying, ladies and gentlemen, you do not pull an economy out of depression by intensifying inflation. To the contrary, what you must do is you must rapidly decrease inflation and rapidly increase wages. Okay? Positive economics, we all know what it is. It means low prices and high wages and a full throttle economy. And that's what we need to have in the United States once again. I'm going to cover the 6 steps or the 6 reasons Barack Obama has intensified inflation and ultimately choked off the U.S. economy. Okay? To start off with, monetary expansionary policy. What is monetary expansionary policy? Basically what that means is when the U.S. government engages in a printing party and they start printing money, okay? Obama, as soon as he got in office, what did he do? He took control of the Treasury, began printing money like a Mexican dictator, all right? Monetary expansionary policy is when more dollars are added to an economy whose material output has not increased at a commensurate rate. The end result, as everybody knows, is inflation. This is very common in third world countries. Okay? Since Obama took the reins, what has he been doing? Just spending money like he has nothing else to do. Down in South American countries, what happens is the dictator, when El Presidente gets in office, generally what they do, he'll take control of the Treasury, start printing money, buy off the generals and the other key officials, and before you know it, El Presidente is El Presidente for life. It's usually what happens. Now, Barack Obama is not buying off generals, but what he is doing, he's using this newly printed, depreciated currency, and what he's doing with that money is he's buying off welfare votes. Okay, he's going to forgive student loans with our money. He's going to forgive student loans and buy the college vote. And he's going to continue to give free money to illegal aliens. Okay? And not only is he going to do that, I mean, the rumor is Obama wants to grant amnesty to 20 million illegal aliens. Okay? He wants to reward 20 million felons who have broken our immigration laws with the second highest gift that could be bestowed on a human being, second only to eternal life afforded by Christ the Savior, which is U.S. citizenship. Okay? Obama is such a joke of a candidate that the only way he could win is he has to cheat. It's the way the Democrats have been for a lot of years. Not all Democrats. I don't want to lump you all in the same thing because I don't think that's right. Some Democrats are, they vote Democrat for economic reasons. They don't support all the extreme far left, ideology. So, yeah. Anyway, number one, monetary expansionary policy. You start printing money which is not backed by gold. All you're going to do is you're just going to depreciate the U.S. dollar, cause prices to go up. What Obama has done, the second major reason why Obama has intensified inflation, he maintains an open border with the third world. And what does that mean? We are now engaged in the expansion of the labor pool. All right, we're bringing in, despite we have a horrific economy, the illegal aliens are still coming into the United States. Okay, they're still flooding into this country. What we're doing is we're expanding the supply of labor, and we are suppressing wage increases. We're bringing people in who are accustomed to earning $1.50, $2 an hour. The wages are very low in Mexico, and we're bringing those people in, and what are they doing? They are reducing the standard of living for the American middle class because they're willing to work for a lot less money. When you expand the supply of labor at a rate that is much faster than the growth of the U.S. economy, which has been nothing under Barack Obama. The end result, what you're going to end up with, low wages, and Obama, who is expanding the monetary base and depreciating the dollar. So simultaneously, what you have is inflation due to monetary expansionary policy driving prices up, and you have wages being suppressed through an expanded labor market. We should have shut the border down 15 years ago. Why this insanity continues? Unbelievable. I can't even understand why we allow this to continue to go on. The third major reason why we have high inflation under Obama's leadership is welfare. What happens with welfare? I mean, we all know the definition of inflation. Inflation occurs when the supply of goods and services is diminished and is not being replenished at a commensurate rate, or at a rate even close to the diminishment of the goods and services. The end result, price increases, we're going to have inflation. How does welfare create inflation? Okay, just to start off, let me tell you this. What Barack Obama has done, and you're hearing all the liberal news networks right now, they're parroting this unemployment rate figure of 8.1. I think Anderson Vanderbilt on CNN was the first to start pushing this number. It's a myth. Okay, the unemployment rate is close to 13% right now. It's not anywhere close to 8.1%. That's a lie. The reason they keep pushing 8.1% is because it's a statistic that basically says if a president's unemployment rate is over 8.8%, they generally don't get reelected. So the liberal media starts pushing this 8.1 number. And you know what's going to happen as it gets closer to Election Day. Anderson Vanderbilt will chip that down. It'll become 7.9, 7.8, and then their guy will become reelected. Well, it's just it's a carnival atmosphere right now in America with the media and Obama. It's getting ridiculous. But anyway, what Obama has done in an attempt to create the illusion as though the unemployment rate under his leadership is not as high as it is, what they've done is they've expanded welfare by $300 billion a year. You already had a $600 billion a year welfare budget in the United States. What Obama has done is they have expanded it by an additional $300 billion, and we're running a $900 billion a year welfare system in America. It's the most moronic thing that you could possibly be doing in the middle of a depression. Okay, what happens with welfare is right now we are borrowing money from communist China. All right, we're going to pay interest on borrowed money to communist China so we could pay our imbeciles to sit at home, watch television, and consume and not produce. Okay, to consume and not produce. Right, they're going to consume heat, food, electricity, water, medical services. Okay? So this has got to be the most ridiculous thing we could be doing in the middle of a depression, is borrowing money from our enemies and paying our own people to sit around and consume goods and services and not work to replenish anything they're taking. So what happens, all right? If you diminish supply, you have a paucity of supply, what's the end result? Inflation, okay? This is probably the biggest reason we have high inflation in America, is because Obama has dramatically expanded the welfare budget. You see, over at Harvard, what they teach you at Harvard is that if you want to reduce the unemployment rate, right, during your campaign, you expand welfare and you take all these people who are on unemployment and you put them on welfare. And that's, you know, if you attended Harvard, that's how you reduce the unemployment rate. It's just ridiculous. The fourth major reason why inflation is very, very intense in the United States right now is outsourcing. Okay, what is outsourcing? Outsourcing usually occurs when import tariffs are removed, which gives the okay for American companies to basically drift around the world, acquire the cheapest labor, and then import the finished product back into the United States tax-free. That's generally a definition of outsourcing. The U.S. Congress, which has hoarded itself out so many times to this multinational corporate plutocratic ideology. What they have done is they gave China most favored nation status for trade. And what it meant was that China would have the lowest import tariff or no import tariff at all, bringing goods into the United States. So ultimately, we all know what's going to happen. You remove the import tariffs, abolish protectionism. Ultimately, what's going to happen is all the American companies are going to go to communist China, produce for pennies on the dollar, and then export to the United States tax-free. What happens in outsourcing, the biggest problem with outsourcing, there's a lot of reasons why I don't like outsourcing, but one of the main problems with outsourcing is that when you send the job, when somebody's making $50,000, $60,000 a year working in a factory or an office or research and development, whatever they're doing, and you send that job overseas, that person's now in a situation where they're going to end up going and working at some corporate slave shop. They're going to end up at Walmart or Home Depot or Target, one of these jobs where they don't pay their employees anything, okay? Real American companies, you know. Come work for me and I'll pay you as little as I can get away with paying you, okay? That's the economy we live in under Barack Obama, all right? The minimum wage Obama economy. When you reduce wages from $50,000 to $10,000, $12,000 a year, you know, you're talking about reducing salaries by 300, 400, 500%. In some of these situations. And for those people, although prices or inflation may not seem to be skyrocketing, we're seeing increases on food, and gasoline is ridiculous, and it seems everything is gradually going up. You go to the grocery store, you go to the I go to the cereal aisle, certain products I like, and you go in there, and I notice that the box of cereal is now, it's narrower. It's not even quite as big. I mean, the outside of the box sitting on the shelf looks the same, and it's smaller, and you're getting less, and the prices are going higher. And this is what we're seeing in the United States. We're seeing inflation, but just because we're not seeing necessarily hyperinflation like they did in Germany right before the extreme took power, just because we're not seeing hyperinflation does not mean that inflation is not very intense. When you reduce somebody's salary by 300-400%, it has the same effect. Inflation for those people becomes very robust. Outsourcing is a major problem in the United States. The fifth major reason why you have high inflation is speculative inflation. We become an import economy. Meaning that we just bring in so much stuff from foreign countries. What foreign companies are doing, they will look at the U.S. national debt. Okay, they're going to look at the U.S. national debt. They're going to look at the rate of growth of the U.S. economy, which is 0 under Barack Obama. They're going to look at the growth of the national debt, and they're going to say, okay, based on these factors, what is the probability that the United States is going to have to print more money, further expand its monetary base, and depreciate its currency in order to pay obligations on the current and future debt. They say, okay, that's going to be highly likely, meaning the U.S. currency is going to be worth less today and coming into the future. So we experience international speculative inflation based on the fact that we have nothing really stabilizing our currency. I know there's a lot of people who favor gold and silver. And there's a lot of merit to gold and silver, no question about that. I'm going to cover that in another piece, though. Fifth major reason why we have high inflation under this genius Barack Obama is because you cannot continue to run a huge national debt, this titanic national debt, and not think it's not going to result in international speculative inflation. The sixth major reason why we have high inflation under Barack Obama are fuel prices. Gasoline prices are higher than they've ever been under Barack Obama. This is a man who said that he was going to end Bush's immoral war. He was going to get the gasoline price down, and he was going to take care of all that stuff. And Bush was the evil oil man and all this nonsense. Well, you know, when Obama took office, gasoline prices in Des Moines, Iowa were around $1.55 a gallon. All right, it's been, the whole time he's in office, we haven't seen gasoline under $3. And in New York, my hometown, gasoline has been closer to $4. California, it's over $4. So big disappointment. Big man, big talker, acts like he knows everything. And here it is 4 years later. He's presiding over a joke of an economy. And he still carries on like, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. You can't even talk to this guy. He just seems like he's oblivious to his own mess, so to speak. And we see him blaming everything on everybody else now. High gasoline prices, major problem. Barack Obama got elected by promising to end the war in Iraq. He had these college students out at Iowa State University intoxicated on the idea that he was going to end the war in Iraq the day he got in office. Well, that didn't happen. He ended the war in Iraq three and a half years later after spending another $2 trillion on the war, burying the United States further in debt. And then ultimately what he does, he pulls out and he gives the oil back to the Iraqis. I mean, this was unbelievable. Middle-class people are not so intoxicated on the ideological concept because we don't have the financial luxury to worry about, to sit around and dream about the perfect world. We don't have that luxury, okay? People on welfare sitting around, dreaming about whatever they want. The super rich have so much money, they're sitting around dreaming about whatever they want. The middle class, we don't have that luxury. We look and say, hey, you need to have some practical plans, some real plans. And practicality does not involve spending 11 years fighting a war in Iraq, okay? 11 years fighting a war in Iraq, the cost of the war is like $5.5 to $6 trillion. And how many lives, thousands of American lives later, you pull out and you give the oil back to the Iraqis? I mean, what are you, out of your mind? You're not selling that to the middle class. I mean, you might sell that to, some lackey professor at Yale or Harvard, dreaming about the perfect society and all this nonsense. But you're not selling that to the middle class because we're the ones that get hit the hardest with the tax burden to support these idiotic policies. Ridiculous. In Iraq, you have the second largest oil field in the world, the Ramallah oil field. It overlaps into Kuwait. The oil field has 100 years of proven reserves, 200 years proven reserves of natural gas on top of it. So you're talking about it was the stupidest thing you could possibly do. In the middle of a major economic depression, rather than start pumping the oil out of Iraq, what I would have done is I would have installed an American viceroy, and we would have fixed the price of oil coming out of Iraq at $40 a barrel. Would have produced a gasoline price somewhere around $1.35, there's some factors that go into that. And what we should have done was just set up an Iraqi social security card. Nothing to do with the United States of America. What I'm saying is set up a system within Iraq where every member of the Iraqi society was documented and had like an electronic debit card, which we would set up a banking institution basically just to load credit into those cards. We should have fixed the price of oil, and what we should have done, we should have just kept pumping the oil out of Iraq and then sending those revenues directly to the Iraqi people. That would have been a great thing to do. It would have been a humanitarian thing to do. Instead, we didn't do that. What we did was we set up the next Saddam Hussein. We have a new guy who's going to live in these palaces. Maybe he won't be quite like Saddam Hussein, but the economic effect on the Iraqi people will be tantamount in that what will ultimately happen is the people of Iraq would continue to live in total poverty and total squalor, and you'll have a ruling class ruling over everything, and all the money will flow through a couple of people. That is really not a good thing, and that's pretty much what Barack Obama has set up in Iraq. Instead of doing something positive with the oil, he's given it back to the new leader of Iraq. Ultimately, what will happen is they'll start to trade oil for weapons. That's very common in the Middle East. Oil for ICBMs, oil for atomic weapons. Eventually, that's where it'll probably end up going. We never should have given that oil field back. We should have controlled the oil in Iraq. That would certainly have assuaged the intensity of the current rate of inflation in the United States. And Obama, just straight up incompetence, just dropped the ball. I mean, maybe he's just not creative enough to come up with practical ideas, things that would have helped everybody. We would have benefited from cheap oil. The Iraqi people would have finally got a taste of some money over there, and it would have been good for it would have been win-win for everybody. That didn't happen. Barack Obama pulls the troops out after spending an additional $2 trillion. 3.5 years later, he walks out. We don't take the oil. We get a bill. And the American people, what do we get? We just got a bill. I mean, that's pretty much what we got. This is what you're getting today, ladies and gentlemen, from government. This is the level of intelligence in government. Sixth major reason why Barack Obama's economy is still stuck in neutral. I see him on a campaign trail. He's got that placard on the front of his podium. It says forward. It shouldn't say that. It should say stuck in neutral, because that's what it's been for 4 years. He hasn't moved forward at all. Barack Obama continues to run around the United States carrying on like he's Robin Hood. He's going to take from the rich and give to the poor, and all this nonsense. Just rhetoric on top of rhetoric. He hasn't done anything for the middle class. He hasn't done anything for the working classes in America. He's done nothing at all. Nothing at all. High gasoline price, depreciated U.S. dollar, more illegal aliens that we're taking care of, more problems, more drugs coming into the United States, an uncontrolled border with a third world country to the south. I mean, it's unbelievable what is going on in the United States under the leadership of Barack Obama. Ladies and gentlemen, let me end with this. For one thing, I'll tell you right off, for Barack Obama to refer to his economic catastrophe as a recovery, on a quotidian basis, this is all I hear. Recovery, recovery. Keeps saying, talking about a recovery 4 years later. I mean, the guy's in a dream world, this guy. I don't even know where he's coming from. But for him to refer to this economic catastrophe as a recovery, it's like calling the American people stupid right to their face. It's like calling us stupid right to our face. I mean, you know, if you talk to a credit counselor and say, hey, this is my economic condition, call that Clark Howard show. He's got a show on the radio. Call it to that show. Say, Clark, here's the situation. Here are my finances. I'm in a big economic mess here. What do I do? First thing they're going to tell you, any of these guys, first thing they're going to say is stop spending. All right, and eliminate any type of spending where you're paying interest on the spending. That's the first thing they're going to tell you. All right, so how Obama can get away with referring to this economic disaster as a recovery is unbelievable. What you're seeing right now, you look at this Anderson Vanderbilt on CNN, okay, using the word recovery, recovery, recovery. They don't stop using this word recovery. They're trying so hard to convince you, okay, of something where now it's becoming obvious that it's just a straight-up lie. There is no recovery. They are destroying the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you this. You know, for Barack Obama to have the audacity to hope for 4 more years of on-the-job training is an insult to the American people. It's an insult to me. It's an insult to everybody. I look at this and say, you know something? It's time for him to man up and admit the economy has beaten him. Okay? It's time for this narcissistic clown to just man up, grow up, and say, you know what? All right, maybe it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. Maybe plexiform economics is maybe a little outside of my league. I know he's had great success running around on college campuses, you know, convincing everybody that they're victims, you know. Yeah, everybody's a victim. I'm like, you know, maybe it's time to grow up. You know, we all know that the world is unfair, and having one more person running around America telling us how unfair society, you know, it's just counterproductive, man. You know, it's time to grow up and accept reality. Look, we don't live in a perfect world, and everybody has to pull their weight. There is no free lunch.